Surprise, surprise, the Cardinals couldn't pull off a series sweep today. But the bigger news of the week, Willson Contreras kind of finally calling out the front office after they threw him under the bus last year. Arenado jumped in a little bit. We'll talk about those comments, what we think it means to the Cardinals offseason, what it means for Contreras, Arenado, people like that. And we kind of want to do a little bit of self-reflection on some of the young talent on the Cardinals roster who maybe belongs in the rotation next year. Who are some significant bullpen pieces? What do we think about the Cardinals' young position players? We'll kind of get our collective reactions on all that and more in this episode of Dealing the Cards. Oh, boys. I was kind of like on Twitter being like following the Oakland stuff and being like, oh, this is super cool. Then like slowly but surely the Cardinals just started giving the games back to the Rockies and they blew it. So it's another weird Coors Field game. Sandy's main man Kyle Leahy looked like, you know,
it was a bummer. Wasn't great.
It happens.
Kareem.
Oh no, I haven't seen what he's yet. My
Rockies won. He's rooting for a high draft pick.
Well, yeah, I mean, at this point, they really, I mean, who knows? And honestly, with the luck last year, the Guardians and the Reds, maybe you do want to be in this range. Maybe that jumps you all the way up. But any main thoughts from this series? I mean, it's fun to watch like them play better-ish, except for today. But I don't know. Andrew, any main thoughts from the series before we jump into Contreras stuff?
I didn't watch any of it. I watched some of the condensed games, and I was playing. I was watching the Dodgers lose to the Padres with the triple play, so that was fun. But yeah, I don't know. McGreevy seemed solid. Actually, I watched some of that. I lied. I watched his outing. Some bad luck there with some of the contact they gave up. Overall, looked very strong. Gave up a homer, but it's Coors Field, so I don't really care. And hopefully he has a good outing on Sunday, cements himself as a starter in the rotation for next year. Maybe that means they won't bring back Kyle Gibson if they feel like they have a little bit more security and Lance Lynn. So
that'd be great.
Yeah,
save a bunch of money.
I don't know. Season's coming to an end. Not really too much to talk about in Cardinals land. I'm excited for the postseason to get started, and end of season press conference, according to some of our friends, is actually happening this year.
Yes. Which, so real quick, we can give this and Sandy if you want to react to the series, but Sunday we'll kind of do our end of the year player grades if you want to kind of grade along with us, but then we'll also give our predictions for what's going to happen at the end of the press conference because it's consistently been teased. They're going to kind of start rolling out whatever this front office coaching changes are. Doesn't mean it all happens that day, but they're probably going to start presenting what that plan looks like. So there could be some really significant stuff happening Monday, and then we will go live after the press conference to react to what happened. So tune in on Sunday for our predictions and end of your player grades, and then Monday to talk through what actually happened. And then again, if some significant stuff happens, you'll probably see us more throughout the week afterwards. But otherwise, postseason baseball is coming, so that's fun. But what didn't feel like postseason baseball today was the series. So anything else from Sandy? Anything you want to add to Rocky series? You just want to jump into the Contreras stuff?
I mean, it's whatever. It's nice to see the Cardinals play better ball, like you said, but when it doesn't matter and it hasn't mattered for 4 weeks, it's just like, I don't care. Yeah. I am bummed. Today was the first time it really hit me. It was like, yeah, there's not going to be Cardinals games in 4 days. And that really stinks. Even though I haven't really been watching them, I'll be completely honest. Like, I didn't watch the game today. I had better things to do than watch the Cardinals not be involved in the playoff chase, unfortunately. They were 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position. I admire the commitment to the bit all the way down to the very end. You know, you gotta keep running that out there. I love it. I love the Cardinals having big opportunities to score and, refusing to do so. It is very fun. One more thing for all the talk about Goldschmidt having such a strong end of the season. You look up and the numbers still aren't good. It's actually been really bad. He had a really cold stretch over the last week or two. OPS is down to 705. So, the people that were saying he's played his way into a contract, let's pump the brakes on that. It's actually been really bad. He's barely above 700. Arenado not even playing. Sucks. Contreras shut down for the last 8 weeks. Probably didn't help either. So overall, just a tough season again. Really wish we could cover a winner here.
Yeah. For real. Yeah, well, go ahead.
No, I was going to say one stat that I dug out a couple weeks ago that the Cardinals had a chance and had a pretty good chance today of not being a part of was that they were the only team outside the bottom 5 to not sweep one of the bottom 5 teams. And actually the White Sox joined the club of teams that have swept a bottom 5 team because they just swept the Angels to prevent history from happening. So, yeah, thanks Cardinals for being
Wait, we didn't sweep
horrible.
Any of them? That's terrible. That's so funny.
We actually are like very close to being like 500 against those teams. We won the series against the Rockies. We won the series against the A's. We won the series against the Angels. But then in the National League teams, the teams that are just awful, we lost a series to the Marlins. We won a series against the Marlins. We split with the Rockies, and then we just took 2 out of 3 from the Rockies. So I think we're 1 game over 500 against like just the horrible teams in the NL.
That tells you exactly how close the Cardinals are to like actually having contended for the postseason too.
I mean,
it's the Rockies and the Marlins games that really matter.
Yeah. And I mean, again, we've talked about for weeks now. So if someone listens to what I'm about to say and is like, "Oh, you're like congratulating them on their season," it's like we've like for weeks now been like, "This is awful. Things need to change." But like most people's expectations coming into the year, I had higher or like
where they are now.
We're where they are right now, and they did that with a horrible offense that we all thought. I mean, even the most pessimistic people, I'm sorry, did not think it was going to be this bad. If you thought it was, you're just kind of hyperbole at that point. It's kind of impressive that they're where they're at. It's impressive in terms of how bad they should be. It seems like that they have won as many games as they have, not like impressive as in we should give them their flowers for it. Also, I think there's been a little bit of discourse of like the third wild cards ruin baseball and people are just shooting for mediocrity, which I do think is partially true. But the average, I mean, what's the third wild card record right now in the National League? It's
high. It's like an 87 win team.
And last year, the Marlins and I think the Marlins the year before, but then the Diamondbacks last year made on 84 wins.
Cardinals would have been right around there.
Yeah, so it's nice.
Yeah, I mean, they stopped trying, to be fair. So like, if they ran out their regular lineup today, then
I mean, I think
I'm saying like they would probably have reached 84 wins if they were in the mix. They just kind of stopped trying once they got.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I wasn't necessarily saying that they weren't going to hit that marker. I'm more saying like it's nice that I actually appreciate that the bar for the playoffs was high 80s, low 90s. Like I want that to be where teams are at because I want good teams to make the playoffs and not like just randomly jump in at 83 or 84 wins. Apparently, I look like someone's comp teacher. So hey,
it was also just a weird year for the NL playoff race.
Yeah,
like all around just odd. The teams in the middle of the wild card race were not very strong. The teams at the top of the wild card race were great.
Yeah,
and there's no dominant team. You might have a year in which no one's going to win 100 games all across baseball this year.
It's first time since like 2018 or something like that.
2014 when the 2014 were the best team.
Yeah, and when you look at the way baseball was trending with like super teams in the last few years, it hasn't just been 1 or 2. It's been like 4 or 5 teams winning 100 games.
Yeah.
So this year, having nobody reach that mark, not only that, like no one in the AL is going to win 95. No one in the NL is going to win more than 96 or 97 tops. Yeah. So it's just a really strange year. And because the wins are distributed that way, 81 wasn't going to be enough. So
yeah, and injuries played a part for sure. I mean, like the Astros had a weird start in injuries. The Braves had a lot of injuries. The Dodgers had a lot of injuries. Yankees had some weird stuff. So I feel like there were teams that could have won 100 games, but like they all kind of had some like stretches that really hurt them. But it is nice to see a little more parity. But like not like parity as in 82 win teams are making it in, but like the high end teams aren't too much better than everyone else. But the bar to get in is still high enough. I do think Kareem's points is a really good point. I think the rotation basically worked to their plan, but the offense didn't, and the bullpen worked their plan. So that's why they missed playoffs. But if they use that as an excuse to build like that for next year, then big issue. But I mean, again, coming into this year, I don't think any of us were super excited about the overall direction of the organization. But again, I was like, I think their plan for 2024 specifically can work if X, Y, and Z happens. Y and Z happened. X, the thing that I was most confident in, did not happen. It's like whatever. But Contreras also pointed that out, and I think that's the thing that really from this week I caught my eye the most is. I should probably pull up the exact quote from him here, so maybe I'll get that up as we're talking. But most of you probably seen it by now. He was asked at the end of the last home game of the season, kind of some of his thoughts in terms of how the offense played this year, their overall issues, all that kind of stuff, and it started to blow up. Right? I'm sure you guys saw the quotes. Let me pull it up here so I get him exactly. Sorry, I should have done this earlier. Here we go. So here's Willson when he was asked kind of about how things happen. He said, quote, "There's some things that need to be addressed. I don't know if the front office is going to, but we didn't come together as an offense at all during the whole year. There's a lot of holes to fill throughout the lineup as well, 1 through 9. The only thing we can control is show up next year and keep working. But as an organization, I think the Cardinals are one of the biggest organizations in baseball. And if I was them, if I was the front office, I'd be hungry to own this division. We haven't owned the division or this division in the last 2 years. Someone followed up with what areas need help. He said, that's a good question for the front office to answer. I'm not going to answer that question. But I think if you look at the numbers as an offense, you will notice what's possibly missing. As a group, we need to make an adjustment next year for sure. So, I mean, he just kind of laid it out there, and it's funny. I mean, I know we all agree the rotation isn't necessarily good enough, and they're definitely missing another dynamic arm. But like the thing that killed them this year was the offense. And I mean, I guess my biggest question to you guys, and I kind of have my thoughts on it. Like he wouldn't name names, but he alluded to, you look at the numbers, you see what we're missing in the offense. Andrew, what do you think he was trying to get at with that?
I think he's trying to get at, hey, front office, maybe don't re-sign Paul Goldschmidt this year, without really saying it. I think he's trying to put it as respectfully as he could without being like coming off as a bad teammate, which I think is fair. If he came out and named names, it was like, we need to get rid of Nolan Gorman and Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt. And like, you can go on and on about all these. Maybe don't play Pedro Pajes every day. Maybe play your second best hitter, who is like,
oh boy,
like instead of sitting him every single day, he has a 792 OPS. Ivon Herrera, like, hello. But it's a little bit too late for that, I guess. But probably doing that without like naming names and being like, hey, these guys are all terrible and you need to get rid of them. Like the Cardinals are probably one of the only teams, like if you looped like all the playoff teams into like one pool, like I think each of them has like a qualified bat with an OPS over like 800, 850. Like even the Braves' offense have been like bad all year. Ozuna is like kind of carrying that load. The Cardinals didn't have anybody doing that. Contreras is out for half the season. And other than that, like the rest of their lineup was just awful compared to like looking at their star power and
so bad.
Yeah. I mean, I think you just named it. Star power is the issue. Like, I mean, well, actually, the whole offense struggled this year. But like, even if we want to think Nootbaar, Walker, Gorman, Donovan, Wynn, Burleson, like even if we want to think best case scenarios for those guys next year, yes, in small sample sizes, maybe a season long, they can be borderline elite at times at the plate. But like they're more the secondary pieces of the offense. They're not the 3-hole hitter, 4-hole hitter right now. Maybe Mason Wynn it ends up being awesome long term. Maybe Nuke can get there. That's what you're hoping Walker can get there. But like, and realistically, you can't ask them to do that kind of stuff. Willson was the guy in the middle of the order. Everyone else is kind of like, what's going on here? Which is why I'm a big proponent. Kareem just put in the chat, move Willson Contreras to first base next year and so he plays every single day.
Yeah,
like,
I can work with that.
That bat, like even if he's healthy, you're probably only getting 115, 120 games out of him and you need his bat all the time. And so it sucks because he did make improvements as a catcher this year. And like your lineup is so good when you have other big bats in your lineup and your catcher hits like that and plays defense. But like, I don't think they can afford that at this point. You got to have that bat lineup every day. It makes sense with first base opening up. And maybe he doesn't have to play there every day, but maybe it's like he DHs in first base a lot and occasionally catches against right-handed pitching and Burleson can play some first base, but definitely against left-handed pitching, put him at first base. Ivon Herrera should be the catcher next year. I'm just worried that's not going to happen. I'm thinking it's going to be Pedro Pajes if they did that. And that's why I also
why don't you DH Herrera and catch Contreras? Because it doesn't really matter which spot in the lineup you're getting the production from. If your catcher is elite and your DH is like average, as opposed to like your DH being very good and your catcher being very good, right? Like it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but I think the problem there is like, okay, so you've got Walker and right, Newton left. Says Burleson sit every day then? Like
plays first base.
But I thought you were saying Contreras at first and
no, Contreras catching and like just splitting them and Pajes just get rid of him. Like,
well, they're not gonna get rid of Pajes.
Well, then just trade him. Like, they're not gonna like DFA him, but like he's got significant trade value.
Yeah. What like I kind of remember when they sent VS2 down, I hated it, but I think we talked about it. I was like, it's better than him sitting every day. It's how I feel about Herrera. It's like, but when it comes to a trade, it's like I hate the idea of them trading him, but like it's better to trade him and get value out of him than for him to be your third catcher and not utilize. Like that is so dumb. He's way too good for that. I think ideally for me, he's your starting catcher next year. Pedro Pages plays 40% of the time. It's whatever. That's a backup catcher. That's today's game. He should not be the starter, though. And Willson Contreras is your first baseman. But anyways, Sandy, your thoughts, though, on his comments, and then just in general, like this offensive issues that they're coming into right now, or have had the whole year.
Yeah, the Contreras comments, I think, are going to go well with what I'm going to say. But I'm looking at the numbers in the lineup from today's game, and it's like, at this point, you can't bring Goldschmidt back next year. He's just a below average hitter right now. And you can't rely on that. But like, even the guys we were looking at and saying they're having strong seasons, like Mason Wynn now has a 99 OPS plus. Like, it stuck around for a long time. I understand slumping when the rest of the team slumps in August and September. It's probably the most plate appearance he's ever gotten in a season. It's not like the defense slumped. He's a 4.6 B WAR player. Very, very valuable. Great season. But it's fair to say he's not an offensive linchpin right now.
Yeah.
Nootbaar, 755 OPS, but he was hurt a lot. Slightly above average hitter. Maybe if you could get a whole healthy season from him, he'd be somewhere in the 8s. But the OPS was down this year. The on-base percentage was down this year. I'm not going to pretend that he's a number 2 hitter going forward. That's not fair. Alec Burleson was the number 2 hitter for most this year, 729 OPS. It's like a 101 OPS plus. Same thing as Wynn, where it started really strong, tailed off. I get it. Probably some fatigue, but you can't slot him into the top 4 of your lineup right now. You just can't. That guy hits 7th or 8th on a good team. The rest of the guys, there's nobody in here where it's like, yeah, that guy has to be in your top 4 moving forward. Herrera, if he's healthy and if he's there, sure. Like, he's a great hitter. He had a really good year, but not a lot of at-bats. The sample size is pretty small for the 795 OPS. You can't pretend that Walker or Gorman or Donovan are guaranteed to be above average hitters, let alone all-stars. And that's what the Cardinals need. And so I'll agree with Contreras in the sense that, and I think he obviously wasn't going to say this, but I really think it's fair to say the Cardinals cannot contend next year without bringing in substantial offensive upgrades. There's just no way. This lineup sucks. That's all I can say about it. It sucks top to bottom. It's really weird to say that because you look at it a year ago and there were not only superstars that you could count on to have a bounce back year, superstars that were still good like Contreras, and then young stars where it's like this guy has all the talent in the world. I'll bet on the upside. I'll bet on the talent. I'm not betting on any of it right now. This lineup is terrible. And I think if they went into next year with this lineup, I would project them as a bottom 10 lineup in baseball. If not bottom 5, looking at it right now. Maybe not bottom 5. Bottom 10, though. Absolutely bottom 10. You can't.
Can that be my bold prediction for next
average
year that I will very much get wrong?
You can't pretend that it's even a league average lineup right now. There's nobody in the lineup today with an OPS over 800.
Lars Nootbaar, though, in his last 30 games, and aside from the month that he was bad after he was hurt, has been very good.
He's been good, but he hasn't been good enough for long enough to have
OPS in the last 30 games is well over 800.
That's a nice run. Goldschmidt had a run like that too. So did Arenado.
Look at their savant pages and their metrics.
I know Nootbaar has really good metrics. That's fine, but you can't tell me right now that you think Nootbaar should hit 3rd.
Oh no one's saying that.
Or
hit second. I don't think they're going to be the White Sox are going to are worse.
Okay, are going to be bottom 10. Bottom 5 is an overreaction. But I'll say bottom 10.
So the thing I would react to is they basically got the year from hell offensively, and they were still low 20s, so 22nd, 19th, 20th, 21st. I think there's positive regression coming regardless.
I hope
that's where I'd say bottom 10. I don't think that happens again, but I don't have confidence they could be out. I don't think they could be 15 or better unless they add something to the lineup and get that stuff happening.
They have to add a lot to the lineup.
Because here before
postseason like this.
Yeah, and before the trade deadline last year, they had 4 hitters that are above 20% above league average. They had one that was just barely not. So they almost basically had 5. I think Donovan was 118 at that point, and that wasn't including Contreras or Walker. So it was Goldie, Nato, Nootbaar, Gorman, and I forget who the other guy was that was in that mix. They had a bunch of bats doing that. So I think, again, you're not getting that from Goldie again. You're not getting that from Arenado again. I think Donovan, it's to your point, I struggle to believe any of those, or to stake a claim any of those guys are going to be 20% above league average next year. But a lot of them are league average or worse right now. Gorm's 20% below league average. I don't know what Newt's at right now. Donovan's 10% above. Walker, again, on the season's been pretty bad. I think you can get above league average from a lot of those guys, which raises the floor of the offense. I just don't think they have the ceiling anymore unless they go out and make a trade for that Brett Rooker type or the Vlad Guerrero type, or buy low on a Luis Robert type, or they go and sign a whoever the name bat is there, or they get Ivon Herrera in the lineup every day would also help with that.
Yeah, that would help
Contreras
a lot.
plays a full season because he played 70 games this year too,
You need
right?
more
Like
from him for sure.
get 80 more games from him, and that helps your offense. Again,
Absolutely.
that doesn't boost you up 5, but if positive regression, you get Ivon in there, Willson, like that stuff can move you to like the 16th, 17th range, and then you add another bat. But
sure, it's for years we were talking about the Cardinals needing that third bat or that fourth bat to be a legit team. Right now, they need to add a second bat. Like I look at the lineup, and there's not a single person aside from Contreras that I can say, yeah, that guy is a game breaker offensively.
Yeah,
and you can't win with one. And we've learned the Cardinals, you can't really win with two of those guys either. When it was just Goldie and Arenado doing that, the Cardinals were not winning games. You need 3 strong hitters in your lineup.
Yeah, unless I think you can get by with 2 if you're top to bottom 1 through 9 above average, which I think is what we thought coming into the year, was that you're going to have 2, maybe 3 elite bats, and then you'll have above average everywhere else too. And then not just slightly above average, but a lot of guys who are well above average. I think that's what you can maybe hope for again next year. Is you've got 1 elite bat in Contreras, and then a bunch of like 10 to 20% above league average guys. So they're good bats, but not great. And if you had another great bat, then you're talking a little bit more. And also, like, I think Kareem alluded to this a little bit ago. Like, assuming they bring back a lot of the same arms next year, like Gray, Fetty, Palante, and then some of those veterans, it's like, okay, the rotation is probably a little bit more the same next year. But like, what if McGreevy stands out?
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Again, McGreevy at ceiling still limited for me, but like can be a back end guy for sure. What if Quinn Matthews? I mean, I think he's going to pitch next year for them at some point. And what if he's really good?
Oh, I hope so. We need
he should not be the plan A, but icing on the cake. I think you could see some better pitching, which would also help compensate for the hitting a little bit, because it's not like they're world beaters in the rotation this year, right? We're talking about a 20th best rotation in baseball at best at times with a bottom of the barrel offense. You move that offense to more middle of the pack and then get better pitching too. But I mean, you also just got a really good bullpen year, and it's like you can never predict that. You never know if that's going to happen again. Anyways, I do think it's interesting that Nato made some comments too. I don't know if there's anything you want to go with that, but
I don't even.
It's just whenever he talks, I'm like, I'm glad you're finally talking, but like you're also, and he alludes to this and he says this is why he doesn't talk, but it's like, dude, I mean, honestly, if you're talking about someone as the issue, Contreras should be pointing right over to Arenado and Goldschmidt, being like, you two need to figure your stuff out. But
I think I would blame them more than anybody this year.
For sure.
Like, I think they're the reason the Cardinals are not good. And it's fair to say that just from a performance standpoint. Like, if Goldschmidt and Arenado could just be 850 OPS hitters, which is what they've been, that's worse than they've been their entire careers. If they just could have done that, that's like a 135 to 140 OPS plus. Cardinals would be a playoff team. I have no doubt.
Oh, for sure.
That would have been more than enough. The Cardinals might have won 90 games in that scenario. Not only that, if they could just be okay with runners in scoring position, the Cardinals would have won a few more games.
Or even if they could just bad, not historically bad. If they were just bad with runners in scoring position, they'd be.
If one of them had stepped up during this season, the Cardinals easily could have challenged Milwaukee. Because let's be real, Milwaukee had a good season, but Milwaukee's not that good. That is not a good baseball team. We're just bad. I hate this.
Bring back Tyler O'Neill.
Maybe.
Oh, go ahead.
Screw Tyler O'Neill. I can't even do it right now. If Tyler O'Neill had been here, it might have been great. Okay, he would have hit 35 homers for us.
Hey, I want to shout out one of our sponsors in a second, but in the chat, I want you guys, if you're listening live now or later, predict which one of us 3 brings up Tyler O'Neill as a reunion candidate first this offseason. Which one of us talks ourselves into it first? It's gonna happen.
It's gonna be
one of first day.
One of us are gonna say they should sign Tyler O'Neill
that much.
I don't either.
I actually really like him. I'm trying to resist just because I'm like, it's crazy.
There's like 6 other guys I would rather have.
Cody predicted you. Hey, while people are getting their predictions in, let's just thank 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles real quick. We were just talking pre-show about how awesome they are. Andrew can tell some stories about some fun card sets he bought recently and pulled a really cool card out of it. Look at that Yamamoto card. That's wild. How much is that worth? Do you know?
I think it's like $50. So
that's nice.
Pretty cool.
So 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles are located at 9640 Olive Boulevard in Olivet. Open 10 to 5 Monday through Friday, 9 to 4 on Saturdays. They buy, sell, and trade all sports card cards and Pokemon cards. So if you're into that, go check them out. Let them know that we sent you. Again, we've had a lot of you already go to 314. They've told us about you guys showing up a lot. You can get a Tad O'Neill card if you want. Yeah, if you want to buy, sell, trade sports cards, they do single cards, packs, box sets. Andrew just like went and they did a box set, him and a friend, and then they traded some of those cards that they got to get more boxes and stuff like, so you can do fun stuff like that while you're in there. So if you're really into sports trading cards, or maybe you used to be like I was, but you're like, hey, maybe I want to get back into it, 314 Sports Cards is the place to be. They're active on Instagram as well, so it's a good place to see when they've got deals running, or if they've got special cards in stock. You can find that stuff there. So please go check out 314 Sports Cards. Also, again, our code SeatGeek at Newt News over at SeatGeek. Again, there's not really any Cardinal baseball left to play unless you're going down to San Fran. That'd be wild. But yeah, you want to watch NFL, NBA, NHL, college football, concerts, Caleb Williams. I got to throw that in there every time. It makes Andrew so mad. I'm bought in on Caleb Williams even after all that. I'm more confident in him. I'm just not confident.
Week 3 was
I just
good.
think the play calling, when you run speed option and 4th and goal, tell me it's not the play calling.
It's terrible. But also he balled out 360 yards, a couple picks, but he aired it out. Yeah. I'd rather see a rookie air it out than be overly conservative.
And they're giving him a lot of responsibility in the offense. I kind of like it. Like sink or swim. He's going to make mistakes.
It's about might be better. So
no, he's not.
Oh, he
had a historic game, but
it was
he's
awesome.
Not better. He's not better. Anyways,
maybe we need to talk fantasy football or just football more often on here, especially with the off season. If it's tough,
we'll become a Bears channel.
Whoa! what are we, just a generic football channel here?
All right. Maybe we could do that. We'll call it the like relocation podcast or something, because or my team left.
Shohei likes the Rams. He showed up at one of their games.
So Cardinal fans should hate Shohei then.
Yeah. Anyways, I hate Shohei even more now. See ya.
Hey, Daniels is a great fantasy quarterback, and I think he's a good quarterback. I'm not out on Caleb Williams at all. Anyways, so talk through some of the offseason comments. We can get into some of that more too, but again, a lot of discourse about the young guys. Let's do the Ivon Herrera stuff because we kind of touched on it, but I think Jordan Walker is another one we should probably talk about today. But I guess, Sandy, what do you think they should do with Ivon Herrera next year? And then what do you think they're gonna do with Ivon Herrera? Because I think those could be two different things.
What should they do with Ivon Herrera is make him the everyday catcher. Like I'm all in on his bat. Move Contreras to first base. Like, let Contreras play every single day. I'd love to see Contreras play 160 games, 159 games next year. Like, that would be the ultimate dream, is to see a bold, italicized games played number next to Contreras next year that says 162. The Cardinals need his bat in the lineup every single day. Please. You can't count on the health right now from Contreras after this year. But at the same time, those were catching-related injuries. So I'm sure you actually can.
Yeah.
Ivon Herrera is not a bad defensive catcher either. Like, can he throw out runners? No, but no one can throw out runners right now. Let's be honest about that. And like, the problem with Ivon Herrera isn't that he's not throwing guys out. It's that there's this like impression that he can't throw guys out, and he's not throwing down to second all the time. And so like, people are stealing against him more. It's not just that he's not getting guys out, but it's that it feels like he can't control the run game.
Yeah.
And it kind of snowballs on him, where all of a sudden there's 3 stolen bases in a single inning. And it's like, okay, we can't have him behind the plate. We just can't. But if he can fix that even a little bit and just be league average back there, which I know he can. He's athletic. He's talented. He's a great catcher. He's going to be very, very good. And we've known that for a long time. He should be the everyday guy. Let Pages get in there occasionally. Pages defensively is great. Pages could be a defensive replacement, and he could catch every once in a while. I don't have a problem with him being in the lineup. The Cardinals win when Pages plays. I think that's something that we have, like, you have to acknowledge they win when he plays. So let him spell Herrera every once in a while. Let Herrera DH every once in a while, but just get his bat in the lineup. You need him. The fact that your best 2 offensive players are both catchers, that's really unique. Teams don't normally have that. Catchers are normally bad. But yeah, Cody says, I feel like the steals are mainly in the pitcher. That might be true too. I don't really know exactly how Cardinals pitchers do at controlling the run game. I haven't been watching closely enough.
Pages has an issue controlling the run game too. So I feel like the fact that all 3 of them, I mean, Contreras is actually, that's something I think is another indicator of the pitchers having an issue here. Is I was talking to a buddy the other day, and I was like, I remember when Contreras went down with his injury, he was toward the top of the league in basically steal percentage, which he was. He's like 97th percentile or something. He's now down to like league average, I think just above league average since he's come back. Part of that could be the injuries, but then Pages can't control the run game, and neither can Ivon Herrera. I'm like, when all 3 of your catchers can't, And I know one of them has an arm issue. I'm like, that has to be a little bit more on the pitchers, that if you were being honest.
Just another reason to not love Miles Michaelis going into next year, isn't it? Just another reason.
We're just gonna ignore if Andre Palante is any good at it, because we're only giving love to him at this point. But
absolutely,
and
he deserves it all.
Andrew, what are your thoughts? What do you think they should do with Ivon? What will they do with Ivon?
Andrew thinks he should pitch.
That would be fun. I wouldn't mind that. He'd probably throw like 70 miles an hour because he doesn't have an arm. But yeah, I think some DH time. Like next year, you'll just have Contreras healthy, right? Hopefully, like that was a freak injury with Martin. And then he broke his hand getting hit by a pitch. That happens. Like that's unfortunate. Mookie Betts got hit by a pitch. Is he injury prone all of a sudden? No. Like that's just a freak injury. They happen sometimes, and it's unfortunate. I'm perfectly comfortable having Contreras catching. That's why you signed him. Having Herrera DH, split time with catcher. Get him to work at some of those catching labs. Maybe work with some special advisor that was supposed to show up back in spring training, but hasn't showed up a single time this year.
Joe McEwing?
Oh yeah. I think he's he knows a lot about catching. Maybe there's another special assistant like might be stealing a bunch.
It's not ringing a bell. No, it's not ringing a bell.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, it's the guy that owns a basketball team.
Yeah.
That dude
in the Puerto Rican League.
Yeah, so maybe one of those guys to help out with some of the catching defense stuff. You know, I think I hear that guy made the Cardinals like have the lowest stolen base rate in the league for like 20 years. He might be someone worth talking to.
Maybe.
But can't imagine that.
No, not him.
No.
But yeah, I think just have him work on his defense. Have him as a solid backup. DHing sometimes. Trade Pajes maybe, because I don't like the third catcher idea. I think that's pretty dumb.
Well, they also don't have to roster him. He can be in AAA. So like
that's also true.
But I'm with you.
I feel like he probably has more value as a trade piece because he could be of value to someone as a backup, right? You could get
potentially.
Maybe find your next Andrew Kittredge by trading Pajes, because I don't want to bring him back, even though they're probably going to.
Well, also assuming Jimmy Crooks ends up in AAA.
Yeah, right.
Like again, I don't know if they want Crooks coming up to St. Louis next year though, so maybe that's what. But like if Pajes is in AAA, he's probably playing, so it's probably an awkward fit if he's not the starting catcher in AAA. So I agree. I when I think of what they will do this offseason, I think they trade Herrera. And I don't like it because I would rather have Herrera play some first base or I think the reason some people have said in the chat, like, why not Herrera first base? I also like that idea. The reason I love Willson at first base is because you get his batting lineup every single day and he plays the 150, 100. I don't think he plays 160, but you get 150 games out of him, 145, as opposed to even if he is healthy the whole year as a catcher and DHs, it's probably like 110, 120 games. His bat's that good that you need that extra 30, 40 games out of him. But if you want to do the catching thing and Herrera play first base, that's a good platoon with Alec Burleson. So it's like Alec Burleson could sit against lefties. Ivon could play full time. He could DH or play first base against righties and do the other. Like, I think that's an interesting way to do it. I think you could do the three catchers if you did that, because you'd have Contreras or Ivon playing so much of another position that it would make sense to have a third catcher. But assuming they don't do that, or I don't think it's out of the realm though, because Derek Gould even pointed out the other day, and he mentioned Contreras as a guy that could play some first base. So if they do that, you can keep all three. If they don't though, Yvonne's out of options, and clearly they like Pajes. So it's like, who's the odd man out? And you cannot get to the end of spring training and DFA Yvonne. Like, no, they're not doing that.
Yeah.
So I mean, he does have trade value. So I mean, if you're not going to play him, you should trade him because you're going to get something good for him probably. I mean, assuming they maximize his value. But I just think it's dumb because he's their second best hitter this year and has catcher flexibility. And like, again, we don't know if the throwing program will actually make him better, but like, let's hope it does. Right. And I don't know. That's what I think they should do. What I think they're going to do is freaking trade Ivon Herrera. And I think it's so dumb. So, to another guy though, that of what they should do and what we think they're going to do, Jordan Walker today, Katie Wu put out a tweet kind of being like, hey, Walker doesn't belong in the outfield. That blew up right away. Everyone had their own opinion. Some people are like, I've been telling you for 5 years, he's a first baseman. And you have other people being like, he should go to third base. Like, that would be a good idea. Like, who actually genuinely thinks Jordan Walker would be a good third baseman? putting that out there. It's like let's not even.
I don't get why he can't figure out right field. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
because Coors is the biggest outfield in baseball. The sun is shining in Denver, and I don't know. I'll defend him right now, but
that's fine. Yeah, no, I'm not like mad about this play. I just don't get why he can't be a league average outfielder because he's athletic, he's fast, he's rangy. Like these are good qualities. He's a great arm.
Yeah.
And yeah, like Kareem's saying, it's not like he was a good third baseman in the minors.
No.
It's not like Nolan Gorman was a good third baseman in the minors either. I remember they moved him and everyone's like, he's a third baseman. Just because it says 3B next to your name, it does not mean you will win a Gold Glove at third base someday. That is a terrible assumption to make.
Okay, here's something. It's not totally fair to make this.
Maybe if you have won a Gold Glove at third base, we should expect you to win another one.
We can expect you to be a league average hitter.
Let's Arenado's catching some strays right now. Okay, this isn't completely fair because Jordan Walker played way more in 2024, but 2023, Walker was negative 14 outs above average. Negative 14 outs above average. That is horrible. He was first percentile. He was the worst in baseball at fielding in outfield. It's terrible. This year, it's grayed out, so I can't see the exact percentile because of it, but he's -3. Okay. And it's like 40 percentile. Now, again, you stretch out over a full season, it's probably like more like -8, something like that, so it's not good, but it's been getting better, right? Like maybe it's not the worst anymore, but it's not good still. I would stick with Walker on right field because, again, he still has the athleticism to pull it off. Give him more time. I'm more open now to the idea of him switching positions, but like considering I just advocated for Contreras, on there.
Walker.
I can't say Walker there. But if they don't do that, I could see why they did Walker there. I think it's too. I think today's play a little was overstated. Again, to Andrew's point, Coors Field's weird. The sun looked like it was in his eyes, but again, like Walker's made a lot of really bad plays down the stretch, even since he came back full time. I'd give it another year. And if it doesn't work out, then you have that conversation about first base. You can DH him a lot next year too. But I'm not giving up. So I did a quick poll. Again, it's only 455 votes, so it's not like it's all of Cardinal Nation speaking here. But I did it after that tweet from Katie kind of took some storm a little bit. 47% of people said convert him to first base. 34% of people said keep him in the outfield. And 19% said DH only, which I was kind of wild on that. So anyways, Andrew, but yeah, defend Walker here.
Yeah, I mean, he's like Katie's tweet, I think, was more on that the Cardinals have just mishandled his development. And I think she responded to someone that said that. She said, this is a critique on the front office. The organization did not put Walker in a position to succeed. Until the organization supplements him with a legit outfield coordinator, we will continue to see him struggle. It's not fair to Walker. And
I can get behind that.
I mean, the way that they handled him this year, I think is really, really frustrating. Sending him down after like a week and deciding to platoon him against lefties when they recalled him after his hot stretch in AAA was really, really dumb. And then now that they recalled him, his bat's gotten a little bit hotter, and that makes sense. They've just completely messed up his development this year. And we've heard about the Cardinals just not investing in like certain developmental areas, and they need to get like Walker's a very talented player. They can easily find imagine this guy on the Dodgers. They would have to not DH him because they have a DH locked up for the next 10 years, and they would find a way to figure it out, right? They would invest into his development, and the Cardinals don't seem to really care about that. And it's really just not great. And Katie calling out the team is wild because I think she gets a bad rap for holding Mo's water on Twitter and stuff. So yeah, it makes sense. Everyone's fed up with it, and they just need to invest in player development, right? Like it's not that hard. And paying a free agent star is one thing, and then paying an outfield coordinator who isn't going to make a fraction of that, is wild. Like, can we?
And I saw people complaining about the Willie McGee stuff, which I mean, yes, he does work with Willie McGee, but like, it's Willie McGee. I mean, I know he's really invested for what he is at this point in his career, but like, it's extremely notable how thin staffed the Cardinals are at this point. And to your point, Andrew, it's just being cheap, right? It's not like tens of $1 million investment to hire an outfield coordinator, roaming outfield coordinator. And part of Katie's point is like when Walker's been in St. Louis, yes, he's gone to work with Willie McGee, but he spent a lot of this year in AAA. And so there wasn't like a specialized coach to be able to help him down there. And so like some of that development could have happened this summer. So I think Katie's getting way too much flack for that comment. I think she was spot on to call out the front office for the fact that he is still this bad in the outfield. And sure, a lot of that's on him. Like you can't just take all the control out of his hands, but they have not set him up to succeed. And that's frustrating. Real quick before we head out, let's do a couple. I want us all to kind of think of one guy that we. Sorry, Sandy. I saw you want to add one more thing. Then we can go into.
Yeah, I'll throw one thing out there. It's just, are the Cardinals running a 21st century ball club or are they not? You have to pick that, you know, and maybe you're spending too much money on bad pitching or whatever. I just don't understand it. I don't understand how you have $18 million to throw at Miles Mikolas and you can't invest a couple million to overhaul your player development or a couple million to overhaul your coaching staff or add the right staff. Like Josh said, that's terrible. It's completely inexcusable too. Like there are things that happen that are out of your control. Injuries are out of your control as a club sometimes. Sometimes they're not if you have a terrible like training staff or whatever. But like that stuff could be out of your control. Bad player performance that no one saw coming, like Goldie and Arenado falling off a cliff, like whatever. I'm not going to blame Mo for that. But I absolutely will blame the front office for having they're not running a ball club the way other teams are. And it's evident. It's terrible. It's completely inexcusable. And they're paying for it. Fans aren't going to the games right now because you're not putting a product on the field that they want to see. And it's disgraceful. So
imagine if they didn't sign Lance Lynn and invested like a quarter of that into starting a pitching lab.
Could be really different. That's the type of stuff too. Those investments come back. Like you pay Lance Lynn $10 million this season and you get exactly 1 year of Lance Lynn. And then no one cares. No one's buying a Lance Lynn jersey next year because Lance Lynn was on the team this year. You get none of that money back.
Yeah.
But if you build a pitching lab, maybe in 6 years, you have some stud ace who figured something out at your lab.
Yeah. And to be honest, no one was buying a Lance Lynn jersey this year anyways either. So you weren't getting that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, I will say someone brought it up earlier. Good find by Jeff Jones the other day that a bunch of postings have been there's been a bunch of postings in the Boston's analytics department in their baseball operations, and he's kind of like eyeing like, oh, this might mean there's some guys moving ships to maybe St. Louis. So
Jeff,
who knows?
Journalism as usual.
But I mean, pure speculation, but it's something. So maybe they are making some of those changes. Maybe we'll hear about that on Monday. Again, we're going live.
I don't think
Monday.
He said anything about that. He just noted that. He just threw that out there and let us speculate.
Yeah, for sure. Which again, so he wasn't reporting that that's what's happening, but I think it was good. It was a good find on his to be like, there could be something there, could not be. Again, we'll react Monday after their end of season press conference. So be here on Monday. Again, Sunday we'll do an end of the year kind of episode and predictions for that. But again, Monday they'll have the end of season press conference. We'll talk more about the changes they plan on making or they're going to announce at that point. Let's do around the horn real quick as we finish up. Basically, I know I didn't prep any of you for it. I know Sandy's answer already, so we can let him cook first. But who is one young guy you're excited to? Or it could be a bounce back guy, it could be a prospect that you think is going to impact in St. Louis, and you're excited about what you want. And again, they don't have to be a world beater, but you're excited to see what they can provide with the club next year. Sandy, go ahead and.
Well, I want to say
dreamy man.
I want to say Jordan Walker, but I have to say Michael McGreevy. There's so much to be excited for with McGreevy. He's made 2 starts now at the big league level, both very, very encouraging. The first one, he was dominant, 7 innings, 1 run. It was awesome. Then he had a nice little relief appearance. Made another start the other day in the Rockies series. Cardinals won the game. He didn't get the win, but I thought he pitched really, really well. And, the inning that he ran into some trouble, it was what it was, a little bit of a bummer. A dribbler down the third baseline that notably Arenado didn't make a play on. I'm not sure he had a play, but he should have at least thrown over to first to support a young rookie on the mound to say, we've got you. I was frustrated by that. But yeah, I'm excited about McGreevy. I think he's gonna be a 5th starter next year. I think he's going to be a productive player and he'll do it all for free instead of for $18 million like Miles Mikolas.
Yeah. Andrew, who's one guy stands out to you?
Hasn't stood out so far yet, but Thomas DeJacy, I think, has a lot of
it's a good pick.
Very interesting for next season. I think he's getting the Mason Wynn treatment. Not as much. He's not playing every day, but I think him and actually Victor Scott. Honestly, you look at Victor Scott's numbers from this year, and they're better than Mason Wynn's numbers from last year. So maybe he figures something out this offseason. But JC, I think, will help at least fortify the infield if Nolan Gorman turns into Chris Davis, like Bernie said.
Well, he already did, but
well, yeah, but like becomes Chris Davis even more. He just stays Chris Davis. Fortunately, you don't have to pay him that contract, which is great. But maybe he turns into 50 homer Chris Davis. But yeah, but I'm not gonna speculate on that. But I think he's just another depth piece that we can use. Not too flashy, but feel like he has a lot of tools that'll help you in the infield, and yeah, see where it goes.
Yeah. Nice thing about him too is like even if Gordon bounces back, now you have JC filling in the infield rather than Brandon Crawford. So like that's a nice upgrade. Some names that we could have mentioned that I'm not going to, but like Lars Newbar bounce back would be really nice to watch. Again, Gorham, what he's going to do. Jordan Walker again is the big bat that you want to kind of watch. But I'll say Quinn Matthews, right? Like again, Baseball America Pitcher of the Year. Destroyed minor league hitting this year, 200 Ks. So him and Brandon Pfaadt, the only two prospects in all of baseball since 2013 to have 200 Ks in a minor league season. This dude's legit. He's got nasty stuff, and he could crack the opening day rotation. We shouldn't necessarily bank on it, but I think we see him early 2025. And again, we shouldn't like. I'm at this point. I'm like. I mean, maybe you might be right, Cream. But with Quinn Matthews, I'm not going to bank on him being an ace or anything like that, or a number 2 starter this soon. I mean, I don't think I'm going to bank on him being an ace ever. 2 starter would be like, yes, that's awesome. But like, what if Quinn Matthews is like a 3 next year? Like, what if he's a mid 3s ERA guy, or even high ERA 3s ERA guy? Like, and a swing and miss machine. Like, that could really raise the ceiling of this rotation. And he's by far the most dynamic arm we've seen come out of the system in a while. And you might see Tink Hence next year too. I'm really excited about Quinn Matthews in St. Louis. Again, I don't think we're going to see JJ Weatherholt anytime soon, but like whenever he gets close, he'll be the name for me to watch. But Quinn Matthews, I'm excited to see. So McDreamy, we want to see that too. We want to see Victor Scott. We want to see JC. We want to see Walker, Newbar. There's still young talent to dream about. It just sucks that so many of them are coming off a down year. And so it's like, who's are going to be the ones to push through, right? Sophomore slumps, third year slumps, who's going to make it through? Who's going to be the next Dylan Carlson? We'll see. But thanks for everyone for tuning in on Sunday. Again, we're going to do our player grades and team grades for the season, give our end of the season stuff. And then we'll give some predictions for the end of their press conference. Again, the end of their press conference should be significant as they're going to roll out kind of what their transition plan is or front office changes. Again, we don't know how significant or how quick those changes will be, but they will be announced. So there'll be plenty to talk about, and we'll do that on Monday after the press conference. So tune in for that. And then again, we have the Kareem and Sandy's prospect pod will be live next week at some point. So Kareem's in the chat. I know they'll record. Sandy went to go prep for it. He's on the move for that. But yeah, we always appreciate the support. Like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a ton. Again, it's been a crummy end of the season and crummy beginning of the season, but it's been really fun. It's a journey with you all. You guys make it worth it.
Computer just died.
What?
His computer just died.
Oh, of course. Well, just like the Cardinals season, just like out of nowhere, just died. But we really appreciate all the support. Like and subscribe helps out a ton. Comment, let us know what you're thinking below. And yeah, we will see you guys next time.
Thanks, Sandy.
Thanks, McDreamy.